Hello and welcome to G-Star Vault Live. I think there's going to be quite a bit of a mix-up this evening because I've had nothing but problems due to the change in clocks in the UK. Basically, I originally put this post up, I think, on Friday, and then it kind of I was looking at it today and it said it was going live in 5 hours when it was actually 6 hours. So I changed the time and then realized that the clocks since I put the show up have changed. So I kind of like changed it back an hour, and then I just noticed this evening as I was going live that it said, oh, an hour till it goes live. So I had to change it again. Good evening, Hart. Good to see you. Thanks for coming along. It's great to see you again. How have you been? Let me know in comments. But yeah, so here I am. This is a Sunday night regular slot, 3 times a month, 7 p.m. on a Sunday night. Best way to end the weekend. And I hope on that note that you've all had a really, really good weekend. Yeah, please do let me know. If you've had a good weekend. I am absolutely stuffed on Sunday roast. I went over the top on chicken today. And so, yes, I feel really fat and full. But that's the great thing about Sundays, right? And I'm hoping that G-Star Vault can be a paranormal, lovely, chilled out way for you to end your weekend. You know, that is my hope. And on that note, I should probably explain why I have decided to take G-Star Vault live. This is technically the 40th episode of G-Star Vault. The other 39 were pre-recorded. And with me doing this and other content on this channel and my other channel and having a full-time job, just doing the videos and having to do a lot of post-edit work just takes up so much time. And so, you know, it was actually Monty suggesting that I go live because you don't really have a great deal of work. It is much more stressful because I've got to push all the buttons as I'm going. Hi to Mazza. Thanks for coming along. And also evening to KD Fitness. I will answer your question that you sent me earlier on in a little while. What's Hart said there? No, shit times, but hey, but doesn't kill you. What makes you strong? Oh, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yeah, it certainly does. I know all about that because the last 12 months have not been the best, but I am, you know, things are getting back hopefully to normal, and hence why I can be doing some YouTube content again. So yeah, going back to why I'm taking G-Star live, it's just to make it much more quicker and effective. You can either watch it live on a Sunday night, great way to end the weekend, or you can watch it later down the line. And so this is podcast 001. I never know whether to call it a podcast or a live stream or whatever, but I'm calling them podcasts. This is podcast 001, but the 40th episode of G-Star Vault. I can't believe it when I say that, 40th episode. There is a playlist. If you're new to the channel, of course, please subscribe. Let me bring up one of my banners. Here we go. See what I mean? I have to get all technical, pushing all the buttons and all sorts. So yeah, and yeah, I just getting all used to all of this again. It's going to be difficult pushing the buttons, but it definitely is a lot easier than doing post edit afterwards. And so yeah, I was mentioning about the playlists on the channel. So if you are new to the channel, obviously please subscribe and like this stream. But yeah, we have playlists on this channel, so that really helps you around the channel. So we've got all the G-Star Vaults on one playlist, all the TNG review shows on another playlist, and and all the story times. And on that note, what I'm aiming to do with this G-Star Vault, as I said, it's going to be 3 Sundays every month. That's because one week, hopefully, we'll get the Monty Zones back into the usual swing. So on the week where we have the live Monty Zone, I won't be doing a live G-Star Vault. And so the idea is with the live G-Star Vaults, I can sort of fuse together one of our other playlists on the channel is the Vault Sessions. That's where I started to do interviews with special guests. So we're going to merge that into the live G-Star Vault. And then also, you never know, down the line, I might also do a story time where I just come on and read you guys a story from something from the paranormal world, like the story time videos that I've done. But the good news is that I've got like the next 5 or 6 G-Star Vaults already mapped out. We've got some special guests coming on in a few episodes' time. They are the guys from the Unexplained Files UK, and also there's a whole crew of people coming on from a group of people called the Dark Dimensions, and they're based primarily in Cornwall. I think I'm right in saying that. So got them coming up on shows. Next week's show is going to be delving back into ufology again. There was a video that I shared recently on this channel, the last G-Star Vault that I did pre-recorded, and that was called UFOs of 2024. On there was one sighting that I had earlier this year in February. Didn't get it on camera, but on the video I talked you through the location and what actually happened. I put on that video that I reported those sightings to both MUFON and to Enigma. Enigma is a really cool new platform, data sort of platform, where a lot of reportings and sightings are now reported from everybody all around the world. And I found some really interesting stuff when going in to look at my own report. So I'm going to be sharing that next week with you guys. And then, as I said, we've got some special guests coming up in sort of shows 4 or 5 or 3 or 4. And then I've got another really interesting episode coming up, which is basically a theory that I've been working on for the last couple of years. And the more I work on it, I'm starting to actually think, or I was talking to my other half about it the other day, and we're sort of saying that I could actually take this into a book. So I might actually take this theory into a book, but the theory is called the theory of the hairy people. And so that's going to be coming up. I'm going to be sort of, giving you a whistle stop guided tour through that theory. But I've been doing a lot of research. It includes things like medical science and sociological history. And so, yeah, I'm only going to be able to skirt over certain things, because else it would be like a live podcast for like 4 hours or something. But yeah, that should hopefully be interesting. Thank you, Hart. Hart says, actually, I'll just bring that up on the screen. So, I mean, I've got so many things going on already. Stop that one. I didn't realize that was still going. But thank you so much for that comment, Hart. Love to listen to your stories. Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, keep your comments going. I do need your help. Let me know if things like music volumes are all okay and things like that. Some of you might have missed the intro. If you did, I can play it again in a little bit if you want. I'm pretty pleased with the intro. Just rehashed some of the stuff from G-Star Vault, but it's got much more of an interesting look. Anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about this evening. And as the title says, Bigfoot Breakdown. And basically, I haven't actually talked about the subject of Bigfoot for quite some time. Sasquatch. I prefer calling it Sasquatch, but you get the best tags and the hashtags out of Bigfoot rather than Sasquatch. Thank you. The volume's all good. Yeah, so I want to talk to you about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Now, going back, I think about a year and a half ago, I did a actual G-Star Vault on location, which was, I think, the only one that I've actually done on location, because all the other location stuff I do is on my other channel, which is called The Underground Paradox. Giving that a little bit of a plug right now. It's if you've not been on that one before or subscribed, if you've not subscribed, you can check that out. It's in the link. Or in the description, I should say. The link is in the description. So you can use that to go and check my other channel out that I do all the location stuff on. So Katie Fitness said, yeah, play the title again. Okay, let's just do that quickly because, yeah, I know there was an issue with timing at the beginning. So hopefully this is going to knock me off the There you go. So for those of you that missed it, there was the oh, I'm in a bit of a coughing fit. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that was the intro for those of you that missed it. Anyway, as I said, I did a G-Star Vault about a year and a half ago. It was on location. I took myself to a woods that I like to go to, that when I go there, it kind of makes me feel as if I've just been transported to Canada or something. And I went there to just talk about Bigfoot and what brought me to the subject and why I've got such an interest in this category of cryptozoology. And so I'm just going to play you a little bit of a snippet from there. What I did, it was called Bigfoot, the Best of the Best. And there was a video montage that I put into that video where I kind of went through the best of some of the video and photographic evidence that I've come across over my years of doing research. I'm not saying that it's genuine. What I'm saying is that these are all pieces of video or photography that I know have been analyzed and can't be fully answered either way. There are arguments for and against, but no one can categorically prove that it isn't what it says it is. It doesn't necessarily mean it's genuine, but it certainly adds a credibility to it. Anyway, let me just jog your memory. If you didn't get to see that, here's that montage. So it does go on for about 5 minutes. Now, the majority of you guys will be familiar with this footage as the Patterson-Gimlin original footage, and there's a reason that I'll go into in a minute why I've chosen the original. But you can't start the best of a best montage without this footage. If this is the first time you're watching this and you're new to the Bigfoot phenomenon, this is the Bible. And the reason why I've chosen to share the original format is because if you'd watched this footage in the 70s or in the 80s or throughout a lot of the 90s as well, this is the version that you would have had to have watched. And that's a really interesting point, which I'll be discussing later on in this special. Now, this is just one of the many stabilized versions of the Patterson-Gimlin footage. There's plenty out there. MK Davis does a really good one, but this will give you an indication of how people then could start viewing and analyzing the footage from like the late 90s, early 2000s, and how that analysis has continued to progress over the last couple of decades. Now, with this one, everybody knows who follows my episodes on the Vault that I am a fan of cam footage, or what we would view as CCTV, permanent live feed cams, because they're a lot more difficult to manipulate. This is one of two that I'm going to share. This one is from 2017, and unfortunately it's secondhand, so the footage that you're watching is somebody filming a screen, because that's the only way they could capture what was happening live on camera. But it appears to be a family of Bigfoots, or a community, and this is an area of Yellowstone which is off limits to humans. Lots of areas of Yellowstone are, and this is why the camera is put in place. Now this second one from Yellowstone, again from a live cam and a live feed. This is from the Old Faithful geyser area, which again is off limits to humans because of the geysers and the toxic levels that they give off, or supposedly that's what we're told. This was originally uploaded to the internet on YouTube by a channel called Mary Greeley, which has about 15,000 subscribers and has about 200 odd videos, but none of them are about anything paranormal or Bigfoot related. Only this one. Most of them are political or global interest topics. And yeah, so it was really curious, but Thinker Thunker did a really great analysis of this video. In his breakdown, he shows through photographic manipulation that one of the figures that you'll see later in the video, he takes it from the distance and brings it into the foreground and compares it next to one of the buffaloes. That buffaloes are roughly about 6 foot in height and would dominate over an average man. And these creatures, even though in the distance when brought forward, are taller than the buffalo and would probably work out to be about 8 foot tall. So that is something that firstly is really interesting about this footage. This footage I consider to be the closest thing, although it came from 2015, to the Patterson Gimlin footage, in terms of it being a really solid piece of evidence. This next segment of footage has never been featured on the Vault or on the Monty Zone before, but it's one that I've always held in high regard. It's filmed in Alberta that I was mentioning earlier on, which is one of the global hotspots for Sasquatch and Bigfoot encounters and sightings. And this is filmed by a mobile phone. And when I originally saw this footage, I quite quickly dismissed it. And the reason why I dismissed it was because I thought that it was possibly a large ape or a gorilla, because it appeared to be on all fours. The main thing about this footage is that at first it appears at a glance that it's throwing some sort of stick, but it actually turns out that it's a tree trunk. I just got to stop it there. I don't know why I thought that, because ultimately I don't think, well, maybe it could. I don't think a primate or a chimpanzee can throw something with one hand, but maybe they can, because they've got thumbs similar to us. But anyway, I'll go on to explain why it definitely likely wasn't a monkey or an ape of some sort. The equivalent of a trunk, and that's because it's been measured against other sizable objects in the distance, like other trees, and it's about like 8 foot long, this tree trunk that's being thrown. And it's also been proven by Zoom technology that it is using one appendage to throw this trunk, and so that would need an opposable thumb, so it's definitely not a bear or something like that. Now, I saw a breakdown video of this footage where someone went to the location where it was originally filmed, and actually it turns out that it's a slope behind where this creature is, so it's not on all fours, it's just extremely tall. Well, I couldn't very well do a best of the best montage of Bigfoot without the Cass River footage. This footage has a special place in my heart because it was one of the first pieces of footage that I did a full breakdown of in G-Star Vault about 9 months ago, and it's had a really good reaction, so thank you to everybody who has watched and commented on that video. There are other people that have done more exclusive breakdowns of this footage, but for me it's a definite strong piece of footage, and it just keeps popping up new information, so it's definitely one to consider. Now, Idaho is a location that keeps popping up in my investigations, and this particular piece of footage from Idaho was featured on the very first Monty Zone live stream that we did on the Bigfoot subject, where we were joined by guests Daniel Godwin and Ben from the 401 Files. Basically, with this footage, I really wish that I could invest into some better software for kind of taking zoomed footage and being able to process it a little bit better. I've tried to do it here, but believe you me, on some of the analysis that I've done on this, where I have zoomed in a lot, towards the end you can see what is to me a Bigfoot is pacing like almost like a human being would on the moon. By that I mean they're sort of doing strides of like sort of 2.5-3 meters at a time, and it's amazing the distance that this thing covers in about 20 seconds is just astounding. So the second piece of footage in this best of the best montage from Idaho, as I said, a lot of activity coming from Idaho. This piece of footage I actually covered in a breakdown video for G-Star Vault, and I'm blown away. It's climbing up to almost... Just want to stop this one again and just mention I am showing this montage for a natural reason, but I just want to stop on this one because if I was to redo this video, this piece of footage would not be in my best of the best. It was after this that and funny enough, talked about it in the same episode. I found out, or I debunked, a video that was shared by MVTV, which is where this footage comes from. And it was a blatant hoax, fake video, and they would have known that it was when they put it up. So therefore, I don't trust this channel at all anymore. But I guess I still only put this I put this video footage in my best of the best because it's still one of my most highly watched videos with 14,000 views. So I guess that's where it goes into the best of the best. It's 14,000 views, and there's just been some amazing comments on there. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I'll put a link in the description to the original breakdown video. You can check it out there if you think this one looks interesting to you. However, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that commented, because when I originally started doing the breakdown of this video, I would have said that I was about 50-50 on it. I wasn't too sure. There's a lot of points that go to argue towards this being a genuine piece of footage, and there's other points that scream that it's a typical hoax. However, I would say from your guys' comments online that about 70% are really for this being genuine, and 30% are maybe not so much. But some people have made some really great points in those comments. So again, thank you. And this one definitely deserves a place in this best of the best. This one rounds off the best of the best montage. However, there are going to be more Bigfoot videos and footage later on in this special. But this one, again, featured on the Vault, but on a short, so it was less than a minute long video that I did, giving a breakdown of this one. And it comes from Georgia, USA. And I found it from a group called Cryptid University on Instagram. Monty, I think, disagrees with me on my breakdown on this one, or at least that's what I recall. He mentioned something about that possibly the tree that I was given the measurements on is not a big tree at all. However, I think that my measurements are actually pretty on the safe side, actually, and that my measurements sort of kind of lent towards the fact that this creature is about 7.5-8 foot tall. Later on in this special, I'm going to include some footage where I'll explain and justify what my breakdown was, and maybe challenge Monty's opinion a little bit.
I say, well, think whatever you want to think. I know what I saw.
Right, so there was a reason why I was showing that footage. One, because tonight we're going to talk about some footage that most people would put in their top 5 best of the best, and I didn't back then when I did this video, and I'm going to explain in a moment why. And then also we're going to review another piece of the footage that was already in that montage. We're going to come back to it, and that was the Idaho drone footage, because with these pieces of footage, as I said, they're still out there in the ether where no one can 100% provide evidence to disprove them, and no one can provide evidence to fully prove them. So they sit in that middle ground. So I keep going back and looking into them, looking at updates. It's always good to do that because you get movement in technology, right? If I had looked at the Patterson Gimlin footage years ago, which I did, and then just naturally thought it was a load of fake and rubbish, and then it wasn't until like this century and where technology moved forward that whole piece of footage re-immersed my interest, or actually was the founding thing that put my interest into this subject. So yeah, there's a lot of people that would put the video that we're going to talk about tonight in their top 5, and I'm going to explain why not. But before I do that, let's answer some questions that have come up in your comments. So before I went live, Katie Fitness did send me a question about what is the plural for Bigfoot. Is it big feet? No, it isn't. There is no plural for Bigfoot. If you see a pair of Bigfoot, you see a pair of Bigfoot or a pair of Sasquatch, or you see a group of Sasquatch, or you see one Sasquatch, there isn't a plural, to answer your question, Katie Fitness. I mentioned earlier there was another question there that came from Katie Fitness about, do you have any idea what they might eat? Are they Vegasaurus, carnivore? I can't tell you wholeheartedly what they are or not, but what I can say is I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be talking about something that I've been working on for the last couple of years, which is the theory of the hairy people. And if my theory was to be true and panned out, that I think it would be safe to say that they're both, and they can eat both meat and plants just like us. And then there was some questions from Hart, I believe. Yeah, she said, I've heard of them hunting deer. Yeah, again, I think it's a mixture of both, and I think they're both capable of a really great comment, feeds into what I was just saying. They eat like us, I imagine. So I think there's a lot of things where you could say both. Are they people ask, are they benign, or do you think they're violent? And again, I think they're both. Anyway, let's get on to what we're going to talk about this evening, and that is oh, and don't forget to like the stream. I'm going to keep saying that because I can see that there's 9 people watching, which is awesome, but there's only 6 likes. So if you haven't liked the stream, please do like the stream. That'd be awesome. Please comment and let me know you're here as well. Getting some great comments coming through. Thank you so much for those, guys. Right, so remove that one from studio. So we're going to talk about a piece of footage that's called the Freeman footage. And it's not new. And as I said, a lot of people would put it in their top 5 when you go out onto YouTube or onto the internet and watch a lot of the top 5 best pieces of evidence for Bigfoot. The Freeman footage would usually come up in it. And the reason why I didn't put it in my best of the best is because I have a very sort of like love-hate relationship with this piece of evidence, to be honest with you. There's sometimes when I can definitely see some really pronounced reasons why it is likely not credible, not real. And then there are some really, really good, solid reasons why to back it up and give it credibility. So I kind of go in and out, in and out, in and out. So we've never actually talked about it on this channel, I do not believe, not in any of the Bigfoot lives that we've done or anything that I've covered. So I thought we'd talk about it, and I might be introducing something new to you guys that you've never seen before, or it might be something that you have seen before but want to you're now going to look at it from a different angle, like I have at times. Anyway, so as I said, it's called the Freeman footage. I'm just going to give you a bit of background first before I play you the video. And Paul Freeman, who's the guy who shot the video, Paul Freeman was born on August 10th, 1943, and unfortunately he died on April 2nd, 2003. Paul Freeman was an American Bigfoot hunter who claimed to have captured video evidence of the existence of Bigfoot and discovered Bigfoot tracks showing dermal ridges. The plaster casts Freeman subsequently made were convincing enough to be considered critical pieces of evidence by anthropologist Jeff Meldrum of Idaho State University and Grover Krantz of Washington State University, who put considerable time and resources into studying them. Others like Rennie Dahiden and Bob Titmus thought Freeman was simply a hoaxer seeking attention. In 1994, Freeman captured a purported Bigfoot on videotape near the Blue Mountain region of northeastern Oregon. The recording is considered authentic by some Bigfoot investigators, but is of a resolution too low to be considered strong evidence. It was also spoofed many times by the beer company called, what was their name? Crow-Canny Beer. And it was spoofed on a lot of their advertisements back in the 90s. Freeman died at his home in Airway Heights, Washington, at the age of 59 from complications of diabetes. So what I want to do now is I'm going to play you the video. Oops, not that button. And I'm going to try and make sure that I play you the really raw version first, where you see a lot of because when you watch this video a lot online, people have sandwiched it down to just the sort of 45 seconds of the key stuff, but I want to show you all the footage that was on the run-up. Let's just fast forward through all of this because I just said all of this. Here you go.
Those little ones' tracks that's in here. I come back up here today to cast these. They look like they're about 9 inches long. A pretty good little track. He's sure little one. Went right up this old trail. Run around up there to his mommy, I guess. I'm gonna mix up some plaster here and pour these. Now I got my cast made.
Please do remember this was filmed on a 1994 camcorder, so the quality is not great.
4 little tracks here. .32 inches between the stride there. Yeah, I'm gonna look around a little bit more, let these dry. Sometimes they come here and get water. Yeah, it looks like they've been here. Yeah. Been one here anyway. I don't know how. It looks like it's pretty fresh. Yeah, I'll go around this bush here. see what's going on here. Oh yeah, here's where. Yeah, here he's come down. Oh shit, he's come down, went back up both. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah, he went back up the road, come down the road. Yeah, look at that. Sure have. Let me stay. Look at there where he's come back up, went back up. Yeah. Look at that. Can't see much up through here. I hear the brush popping and stuff. Oh, there he goes. Jesus. Get up here where I can see him right quick. Get up here. Get a better picture of him. Where the doggone thing went? It crossed right up there. Yeah. I just wonder. It should be right here somewhere.
So that's pretty much the end of the footage. He doesn't sort of see the creature again, but I felt it was important to play all the stuff, you know, on the run up to what actually happened, because he, you know, there's some evidence that I'm going to share with you later that kind of goes to explain, you know, why it's so relevant that I showed you that. But what I just want to do quickly is I just want to share a picture with you of Paul Freeman, because I forgot to do that earlier on. So that should come up on the screen. Does that come up on the screen? Yeah, perfect. So that's Mr. Paul Freeman. And this was, I think, somewhere in the 90s where he was interviewed for a TV program. He did go on to write a book about it as well. So, but I did mention, because what I read to you about Paul Freeman earlier before I played the footage, that came directly off of Wikipedia. And they classify him on there as an American Bigfoot hunter. Well, that's not necessarily true to the case. He actually worked for the Forestry Commission. So I'll give you a little bit more background to Paul. So Paul had 3 sightings before this taped encounter. His first being in 1982 and yet another in 1988 with Michael's older brother, who still won't talk about the incident. Michael is the son of Paul Freeman. So one of the sightings that he had before this video footage was with his 2 sons. And his the younger son, Michael, has gone on to talk about these sightings in interviews and talk about his father in interviews, but the brother still won't talk about the incident. And, you know, there's a lot of things straight away there that sort of fly a red flag, really, for me, and always have. You know, the fact that he was very much sort of interested in the subject, seeing a lot of sightings, but it was all about this property that they used to roam in Oregon, and they used to see a lot of activity there. So a lot of all the sightings and the video footage all happened in and around this similar sort of location that was in the Blue Mountains region of Oregon. Now, at the time when all of this came out, let me get rid of that picture of Paul. Paul was discredited by his employers at the Forest Service and told to keep a lid on it. One of his colleagues was judicious enough to make a note of the encounter in support of Paul's credibility and to document what they both felt was a legitimate sighting. Paul and Michael and his siblings were also harassed and the subject of ridicule, eventually forcing the family to move out of town. Although skeptics were the majority, Paul's sighting did manage to attract the attention of the credible researchers like Jeff Meldrum of Idaho State University and Grover Krantz, as I said earlier on, of Washington State University. So I'm just going to bring some pictures of them up on screen if I can. Should have got all of these ready beforehand, really, shouldn't I? That would have been probably the right thing to do. But I'll bring up a picture of Jeff Meldrum first, just in case none of you guys have seen Jeff Meldrum before, but this is Jeff Meldrum, and he's an anthropologist and a scientist from Idaho State University, one of the biggest voices within the whole Bigfoot research and credible research as well. And he's the one who's sort of come up with this, a lot of these kind of casts that you see. He can either discredit them straight away, or he can give really good reason as to why they might be genuine, or to do with this tarsal ridge that he was one of the first people to sort of identify. And he's not the only one that backed up Paul Freeman's footage. And I'll tell you a story of Jeff Meldrum, which really goes to add a lot of weight to I'm gonna have to zoom that in. So I just wanted to give you a picture of the other scientist who's backed up Paul Freeman as well. I need a producer or somebody who does all of this button pressing for me. Any volunteers? Yeah, there you go. There's anthropologist, what's his name? It is Grover Krantz, and that's what he looks like. So yeah, just so that you can put faces to names. But basically, here's the story about Jeff Meldrum. I'm going to not read the text. I'm just going to try and remember the story. So because Paul Freeman took casts as well as the footage, and he was filming where he took the casts before he had the footage, he piqued the interest of Jeff Meldrum, who was just, starting this whole journey of Bigfoot investigating from an anthropological point of view. And so he went and visited Paul Freeman on his sort of property on this area where all of this took place. And as Paul took him through, there was lots of tracks that he could show him, and to Jeff Meldrum's eye, they looked very credible. And it was a really good first meet, because these guys hadn't met each other before. And from just chatting to him, Jeff Meldrum kind of got this idea that Paul was a genuine guy and he wasn't setting off too many alarm bells. However, what Jeff did is when they said their goodbyes and Jeff then went to go back into his vehicle and head off back to Idaho University or wherever he was going back to, instead of leaving, he sort of waited till Paul Freeman had gone. And then, on one of the roads around this area, he sort of did a 360 and turned around on himself and wanted to go around this area and beyond where Paul Freeman had shown him. And as he did this, obviously Paul wouldn't have known that he was doing it, he came across even more tracks, and these tracks led around this huge area apparently where he said, like, if it was something that Paul had just he sets all these tracks out all around the place, said it would have taken him like forever and ages. But it was really, really curious that Jeff Meldrum, went and did this and then found a load more evidence that, Paul Freeman hadn't shown him, he hadn't directed him towards it either, and shown him. And so it seemed to Meldrum that it was a very active location, and there's been lots of further visits, etc., that went back. And I think Jeff Meldrum and Kratz also helped him with his book. As I said, Paul Freeman did release a book. Unfortunately, sorry, I do apologize, I can't quote the name of the book. But yeah, so that's a little bit more background. And what I'm going to do in a moment is, just after I bring up some of these comments, so we've got a comment from Hart. It's so hard to say yay or nay in regards to visuals, genuine or not. Yeah, I 100% agree. I do believe they exist, though, more the experiences I've heard. And then we've got a comment from KD Fitness. Could they be aliens? Well, some people think they are, or at least there's some sort of connection. I'm not so sure, but again, you'll find more about that down the road. But as I said, what I want to do with the Paul Freeman footage now is there's been people that now, obviously technology has moved forward, have been able to stabilize the footage and bring it up to sort of high res as well, like HD quality. And I just want to make sure that I play the right one. Yeah, that's the one with ultra high stabilization. I'm going to turn, let me know if the volume's a bit too loud, because he does a lot of breathing, because obviously he was a big guy. He'd done a lot of running up the hill and doing various things. So please do let me know if his background noise is too high. But this is the stabilized version. Let's just watch it once through without me scrubbing or making comment.
Oh, there he goes.
Okay, so this one, it's just got the short part of, obviously there is some further bit later on where you see him see the creature go from where it's gone behind that tree and then walks behind it. That's the very last bit of the footage, but it's not going to be needed for what we're going to be looking into today. I'll leave that at the start for the minute. But the reason why this is sort of, as I said, I go in and out, in and out, in and out with this footage. I was watching some recent investigations to this, especially after the footage is being stabilized and brought up to like HD quality, or best that they can do. It's kind of, brought some new angles to it. And there's other people that have done analysis of this, like Thinker with his body metrics, or whatever it is that he calls it, how he goes about sort of proving that it's not a human in a suit, because if it was, there would have to be other things done rather than just wearing a suit to kind of, because either the legs are too short to be a human, or the arms are too long. It's all very, very technical, but it's one of the big reasons that we can, when we look at the Patterson-Gimlin footage, we can be quite confident that it's not a person in a suit, because if it was, the measurements of that person would have to be so bizarre and odd. And there's certain elements to this video where it kind of shows that as well. And as I sort of was taking another look at this recently, that's when I started to find out this background information about Jeff Meldrum that I never knew, because I do highly regard Jeff Meldrum, and as he is a scientist, and he doesn't purport to sort of kind of align with everything that's out there in terms of evidence and research, but he comes at this from, as I said, he's an anthropologist, so he comes at it from that angle. And the fact that he went back out to this region and just found all this other stuff does put an interesting angle to it. Again, I've had to sort of think to myself, beforehand, I always used to think that Paul Freeman maybe wasn't genuine because he had reported having all these sightings before he did the video footage. But then, you could do a 360 on that and say, well, why didn't he then say that he caught video footage earlier on? And, if this is a person that they've set up in a suit, you saw the full length of the video. Why didn't they make more use of the suit and show it again or again, coming out through the trees? They didn't. They only showed it this once. So there's other things that come into it that make you sort of start doubting your own instant view of this isn't credible. But some of it's to be found in the footage. And the first thing, I don't know if I hope you guys can see my cursor. I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen. Actually, if I bring it onto the actual, oh, I can't because the video's in there. Never mind. So right in front of you, just to the left there, you can see a tree. I'll play the footage. Let me take the volume down. See the tree that the creature walks past. So what was the guy's name? Grover Krantz and Jeff Meldrum did return to this location and did find out that that tree is about 10 foot high. So if you think that that tree is about 10 foot high, because they measured it.
Oh, there he goes.
And this was quite soon after the video was shot in 1994. Then you've got to think, well, that thing is at least, I'm going to make a safe and do it on the safe bit. It's at least 6 foot. At least 6 foot. Let's just take that footage back. Let's see if I can just get it where it's just sort of level with the tree. There we go. So yeah, if that tree is like 10 foot and you've got grass down in front here, so there's a lot of the tree that we're not seeing, I would make a safe bet that that is 6 foot. Now again, I can't, because this isn't my video and I can't zoom it in on it right now. And this is the problem of doing live. If I was doing it post, I could do all of this for you. But one of the interesting things is that when you get a better version of this footage, and as the creature walks past, I'm just trying to scrub it really slowly and see if I can just capture it on the moment when it happens. It walks past the tree, and then as it gets to there, just this point here, it looks at the camera. Now, that's a very, very similar thing to what happened with the Patterson Gimlin footage. And that Patty in that footage looks back at the camera. And this does this similar. And a lot of people that sort of fight for evidence being sound or credible sort of go to that logic that if you were trying to hoax or fake something, you wouldn't have them look directly at the camera, because that facial features and hiding that sort of element of somebody being in a suit is a lot more difficult. And so naturally, in a lot of stuff that we can be confident that we watch out there that has been debunked and has been disproven, they point blank don't allow the creature to look directly in the camera. And there's a reason for that. But this one does. As I say, hopefully you can capture it here. It looks at the camera and then goes back to heading to the side. Yeah, so that's one really interesting point. The other thing is that they went back and looked at this tree, and you see the branch after it's walked past it some ways. Hold on, let's take this back, play it normal speed. You see the branch sort of flinging back from side to side. And again, if it was a suit, the person in the suit probably just wouldn't have been that blazing, because it could have like ripped through the suit. The type of tree this is, and I think it was a fern tree, or it would have tough branches, so it practically walks into the tree itself. The other thing that came up on the further video analysis that I've seen that's really interesting is again, it's all about body mechanics, and I'm just trying to see if I can get it on a. There we go. That's probably now. Hopefully, you guys. Oh no, it keeps blurring it. It's frustrating. That's probably where I can get it the best. Hopefully, you guys can see this well enough. What you can see is the creature's head is right down like this. So, if it was somebody in a suit, this is where body mechanics come into it, because we can, as humans, sort of walk like that, especially with the weight and the girth that you see of this thing. What would happen if we kind of walked like that and had our top half of our body leaning so far forward, and then also the head leaning forward, is what would happen is you would fall over. Let me just play it and see if you can see what I'm meaning. Like literally, it's so much weight, and it's very much, if you've ever seen a gorilla walk on two hind legs, it's very similar to that we just couldn't do that, where they kind of have their head really far down like this, and you can see in that footage that this thing has, and you can also see again how wide it is. You can see the sunlight shining off its back there, almost kind of gives it like a silverback look. But I don't think this is a gorilla in the middle of Oregon. But you definitely get context, or to the fur and reaction to the environment as well, in terms of the sunlight. But yeah, again, I hope it's coming through better for you guys. Not on my screen, it isn't. I thought it would come better through better on this. In fact, let me see if some other footage that I've got works better, because I do have several, just in case. Always good to have a backup. See if this one's a bit better.
Oh, there he goes.
Let's cut out the volume. No, I don't think the quality on this one will be even. Oh, it's good, better zoom though. That's good. So you definitely, in that footage there, you saw the glance forward. There you can go. If you had a zoom, you could probably zoom in on the face. And again, if this was somebody hoaxing it, it would basically be quite dangerous to sort of then make the mistake of looking towards the camera on the footage. So yeah, let me know what you think. Keep your comments coming, please. That would be really, really helpful. But I'm just going to continue to see if I can get a better look at what I was saying on this one, where the angle of the thing, if it was a person in a suit sort of looking down like that, they would just fall over. But there is this bit where he takes the camera down, brings it back up, and then I think the creature moves between one tree to the next, and that's the last that we see of it. Here you go. Or maybe not. I thought there was another little bit. Yeah, so I'll put some links in the description. There's some really good people that have done some good video analysis of this. I'm not the best video analysis, and certainly not live, because can only use one bit of footage there. But I like this bit because it definitely shows you the creature looking forward. And again, just think how risky that would have been in terms of just exposing that it's a person in a suit. Again, one of the things, let me play this at normal speed. One of the things that goes to offer some credibility towards it is the speed at which things work. Because again, if you think of a person in a big suit like that, walking through a forest floor, you're going to be a little bit more tentative. And yes, some may argue that you'd be then looking down on the floor, but you wouldn't be able to look down in that way, where it's not just about the fact that the head's down. Please don't think that it's just about that. It's about the fact that if you capture it in the right position, it's not just its head's down, his upper body is at an angle like that as well. So again, it's a gaint, what they call in the Bigfoot world a gaint, that's been analyzed through body mechanics, that really goes to show things like proportions that would be difficult for a person in a suit to mimic. So let's go back to some questions. Got one from, why do you think they stay hidden? Do they not want to be found? Again, you're making this difficult for me, KD Fitness, because I don't want to lean too much onto the show that I've got coming up down the road, which is called The Theory of Hairy People, because yes, I do think there is an element to being hidden. You asked something earlier, I think, or maybe you've asked it again, about bones. Again, certain people have reported, let me just get the footage off the screen for a moment. There are people that have basically said that they think that they found bones and nothing's been proven. But here's the thing about bones: there are creatures out there that even right now scientists, biologists, zoologists know are there, but they can't find the bones to them. So I've used this example plenty of times. There's an area of California even, and it's not even that vast in the sort of breadth and width of California, where this particular subspecies of black bear exists, and they know that there's about 400 of them, but they can never find one, and they can never capture one, and they, even on video footage. But the scientists and the zoologists and biologists that do loads of stuff in this area, all say that they're there, and they've got account. How they know that they're there, I don't know, but it's not, this sort of thing about bones not being found. I mean, how often do you come across a set of pigeon bones? Or unless you've actually run over one in a car and it's then laid on the side of the road and sit, but you don't walk down your local fields or in your local forest and go, oh look, bones, bones, bones. Where do bones of things go? And again, in the past, I've done a lot of stuff to show how in nature it can take sometimes less than 7 days for everything about a creature, even its bone makeup, to be eaten up by all the surrounding nature, insects, everything, and it can get stripped down in less than 7 days. And that's why that deer that I found in Yorkshire was so weird, because that had been there for over a month. What's Hart said here? I don't think there are bones, maybe some hair, but it's inconclusive. Yeah, again, with the hair, it depends how much you're going to go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but there's plenty of times that people have come forward saying that they think that the FBI or one of the agencies in America does have evidence of hair, but they're not willing to share it. Even as recent as the eruption of Mount St. Helens, there was reportedly lots of witnesses to the fact that they saw dead Sasquatch as a result of the eruption of Mount Helens, and that was all buried by the forces and the military that were there on site. And it was believed that this was when they reclaimed some hair or bodies, and they have them, but they're not willing to share them. But who knows? That's going down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theory. As I said, I've got my own theories, and I like to come at it more from thinking about a scientific explanation for this thing. And I can't wait to share that for you down the line, but I'm not gonna give reveals into it now. But keep the questions coming, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. We've got one from, if I were BIGFOOT, I'd stay the heck away from humans and their guns and trigger happy fingers, 100%. Yep. Oops, ignore my comments, just realized the questions of G-Star. No, that's okay, Hart. It's all good. And then we've got Mazza. They'd be able to test DNA though, right? Yeah. I mean, obviously, again, that's another good thing about the Freeman footage that we were just talking about, because back in 1994, I don't think we were fully, or most people didn't know about DNA testing back then, and I don't think it was. Somebody Google it for me quickly and find out when DNA testing was first brought about, but I don't think it was early as 1994. But again, if you were going to fake something like that now and have it brushed through the tree as blazing as that thing does on that footage, it would surely leave some DNA footprint, right? Or something that somebody could go, well, shouldn't have left a load of fur over the branch. But again, that's not something that I've seen come up in the research that they found hair related to it. I think Paul Freeman has said that he sent off not just casts but hair as well. But again, Paul Freeman was one of these guys who right to his 2003, when he left this mortal coil, he still stayed adamant that he wasn't hoaxing, it wasn't a fake. And he did work quite closely with a lot of these anthropologists to, reveal it. But he was a trained person as well. He was in the forests a lot. He was worked for the Forest Service for very many years. But it's just like Hart said earlier on. You'll never know. We'll never know. From that piece of footage from 1994, we can't prove anything, and we can say it's interesting, and we can talk about what goes in its favor and also what doesn't. I mean, again, I was of that age where I probably was seeing these beer commercials and the piss takes of the Paul Freeman footage, and so therefore I just naturally always thought it was fake. But again, would it appear in my top? On some days, I think it would appear in my top 5, and then other days I just go, I don't know. But it's definitely worth sharing, and I'm glad that I've done so on this channel, because everybody who is anybody that is interested in the Bigfoot Sasquatch subject would talk about the Paul Freeman footage at some point. It is up there, as I said, in most people's top 5. So the one thing I want to do before I check off is, and the other reason why I was playing you that montage at the beginning of the stream, this podcast, remember podcast, keep your branding right, was because I mentioned that there was that video footage from Idaho. It was drone footage, and I've talked about it a lot. First time we discussed it was on the Bigfoot Monty Zone live stream, which was called Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and Wild Men. I discussed it quite a lot then, and I discussed it on the Best of the Best. One of the things that I had done with that footage beforehand was I had time measured it, so trying to work out a rough estimate of the distance that we're seeing the thing run. A lot of the people, when you're watching the footage, you can't see it, you have to look really, really carefully, but it covers like this distance that you see on the footage in about 35 seconds, which means that it's going at a heck of a speed. And in the past I've said, this person would have to be running the speed of an Olympic runner. But one of the things that I'd struggled with this footage in the past was having the platform or the editing suite to do decent zoom on it because with a lot of software you can do the zoom, but you lose hell of a lot of quality and it pixelates. So it was waiting until I had something where I could do a bit of zoom, and because, again, technology moving forward, I've gone back and had more of a look at the footage and used some of that Zoom technology. And I've found something that that actually goes to say I may have been wrong. And maybe this isn't as credible as I thought. And I don't think it's a hoax. I just think it's something that is different. Anyway, let me just bring up a video to show you what I'm talking about. Jog your memory. So this is some pre-analysis that I've done. I'll just play this quickly and then I'll go back and stop it at points and talk about it. So just stopping it here. It's too far away at the moment. You haven't missed anything yet. But what's really important, this does look to me like farmland in Idaho, and you can see like this track running through the middle, and just to the right of that, just in the middle of the screen, just to the right of the track, looks like there's some sort of building. I don't know whether that's like a barn or one of these things that they stack hay in so that the cows can feed out of it. But yeah, it definitely looks like this is a farming area. Anyway, let me carry on playing it. So I've zoomed in there so you can see the thing starting to move. You're not depending on your naked eye because it'd be really, really small. Right, I'll play a little bit more of that and show you what the camera does afterwards, because I don't think I've really ever shown you that. But I'm just going to go back to where I'd highlight those circles and just explain what my thinking is. Okay, so what I was doing is, once I got a zoom in of the figure, whatever it is, if it's a person or if it's a creature, I got a zoom in of it. And then what I was trying to do was color match it. So there's an area of the tree line there, which you would sort of say is probably dark or dark green. And then, you know, the sunlight obviously shining down on this wooded area. So the tops of the trees, which I then go on to next. So I've zoomed in on one of the top of the trees there, and the color. And the color to me kind of matches the color. Again, the sun is shining down on this figure. The color of the sort of outside of the figure where the sun would be shining on, to me, to my eye, and let me know, please do comment, looks the same color as the green of the tree. So if I'm going along that thinking, I'm thinking, well, actually, because, you know, with most Sasquatch, Bigfoot reported sightings and what I would consider genuine footage or evidence, sort of reports that they're either reddish brown, black, dark brown, not so much green. I mean, green gets more into, you know, swamp monsters of Florida, or the swamp thing, or whatever you want to call it, if that's a real genuine myth. But I'm starting to think that this is a thing, a person wearing green and not anything that's brown or black. It looks black on a lot of the rest of the footage, but again, I guess that would be achieved by the distance. And so therefore, where my brain is going now is I'm thinking green. I'm thinking, well, who wears a lot of green? Army, Marines. Maybe this was an area where there was some sort of you know, exercise going on, and the exercise was to evade the drones, you know, etc., etc. I don't know if there's anybody watching live or pre-recorded that is from the area of Idaho, and let me know if you recognize this area, and if military exercises do take place in that vicinity. Please do comment and let me know. That would be really helpful. But yeah, I just now going back and having a closer look at it, I'm thinking that this thing isn't brown, it's not black, but it's possibly green, because the outline and the outside of it really does match in with the color of the green of that tree for me. So I'm assuming that it means that they're both green. Now, let me, I'll get rid of the volume. I'll just keep playing the footage whilst I'm talking. What was interesting about this footage is that, again, this would apply, one, if it was again one of these exercises. It kind of like goes into the woods and tries to scour for this thing and see if it can continue to see any more movement or pick it up. It tries to go as low as it possibly can and get down to see the tree line. But again, if this is a military exercise where they were trying to do that, trying to capture people, trying to test the drones, see what they could do in warfare scenarios, you know, they would probably do the same thing. Some might say if it was somebody hoaxing it, they did this to kind of make it look more convincing. But they do give up at such a point towards the end of the footage. It lasts about another 20 seconds of scouring the woodline, trying to see some movement. And then it basically just goes up and away from the woodland and carries on with its journey throughout the sky. So yeah, I'd never really shown that part of the footage before. But anyway, let me know what you think. I'm not saying that this means now that I don't think that this footage is genuine. I like to use it as an example of how I continue to analyze these things and continue to look out for information that's coming through. I didn't see anybody else looking into this. This was just me. I just thought, you know what? I'm using a lot different editing software now. And back when I did all of this best of the best, I was using something that was a lot more restricted in what it could do. So I thought, oh, actually, I'll go and have another look at that when I was thinking about this episode, and just found those interesting things. Let's get to some of your questions. So I think Chris asked a really interesting one there. Have you had any Bigfoot close encounters? No, I have not, Chris. And you know, I am of that party right now. The opportunity to do another shameless plug. So on the Underground Paradox right now, there's a video that I loaded up about 2 weeks ago now, And it was actually from an interview that I did with Andy McGrath just over a year ago. What's really funny is in that interview, he's talking to me. Andy McGrath is a cryptozoologist, and he's the author of the Beast of Britain book series and the World of Beasts as well. And he was on that interview talking about how he was talking to TV producers at the time about making a series. And actually, just before or just after I uploaded the revamped version of my interview with him on the Underground Paradox, link is in the description, he emailed me to make me aware that he's finished filming the first season of his TV series. They're just wrapping up the second season, and they've been commissioned for a third season, and it's called Weird Britain. So he covers the breadth and breadth of paranormal now, not just cryptozoology, but it's very much more focused on definitely his wheelhouse of monsters. So there's a lot of Loch Ness and various other things in there. But he also trips down the mythological side as well. So in the first episode, he was talking to a lot of druids and talking about things like ley lines. I know that he's done a lot of he's done episodes on the King Arthur myth and spent some time down here in the Southwest filming. So yeah, it was really interesting going back and looking at the video. But if you're interested in the Bigfoot subject, but he talks a lot on that interview about how in the world of Bigfoot now, it's very split in half. You have the biological side and you have the woo-woo side. Woo-woo, don't ask me what it stands for, but the woo-woo guys are the people that believe that Bigfoot could be either connected to interdimensional activity or connected to UFOs, UAPs, and aliens. And then obviously there's the other half that believes that Bigfoot and other similar wild men myths are more biological. So it's split down the middle. So hopefully that answers your question, but I've never had a close encounter, certainly not, and I don't think I would in the UK, but I'd love to get over to, I think I could, if I was going on the search and had an unlimited budget, I think I would either head to some of the outer wilderness areas of Russia, or I would head to Canada, North Pacific, West, or Alaska. It's the top end of the globe there that I feel is credible in terms of sightings of these hairy people. Anyway, what have we got from Tavi here? Is there a probable theory that Bigfoot are mistaken likely a branch out from a similar humanoids like the Thunderolls? Personally, always thought it plausible given the migration of different humans. Yes, that is very, very strong because, again, if you want to go along the lines of science, even now, today, there's new stuff always coming up about, and I don't even want to say human history. I want to say like Homo sapien history. I want to say primate history. And archaeologists recently have found that they always thought that the Neanderthal man died and became extinct, and then Homo sapiens popped up and then continued the journey. And then about 10-15 years ago, they started saying that they thought there was an overlap of maybe like 50 years or something, or there was evidence appearing that there was overlap. And now that overlap has gone to about 1,000 years or around, and there's actually some weighty evidence that archaeologists are finding that we cohabited or co-bred as well. So, and that would explain a lot of certain biological differences that you can look at a lot of the people from the northern parts of Russia, and they have a really pronounced brow ridge, and very similar to the sort of shape of Nathaniel. So there's genetically some footprint now that really weighs evidence to the fact that that crossover and that interbreeding went on longer than we ever imagined. Now, if that can happen, and we're just finding out information like that, who knows whether there is a breed of previous humanoid beyond Homo sapien that has managed to stay elusive and stay hidden. again, when people go, oh, I just don't believe that nobody could have come across it, there's too many game cameras out there, blah, 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 blah. I so adamantly disagree with that, because that comment does come a lot of the time from people that live in places like Europe, you know, the UK, and don't live in places where this wilderness goes on and on and on. And there is still tribes in South America, in the Amazon, that people are aware of, but they can't get to them. They can't find them. They have caught them on drones, but they can't track them quick enough to like ever find them. And there are still tribal people out there that stay really, really elusive from what we would consider Western civilization. So I don't know. I disagree that that is not always as implausible as some people naturally think. Anyway, so that I just wanted to share that footage with you tonight and say that I'm always even questioning my own research. That's what this journey is about. As I say on the Underground Paradox, it's the search for truth. Here on G-Star Vault, it's the place to keep the paranormal evidence safe. But you can only do that. And again, on this show, if you come on this stream, this podcast, or future podcasts, you know, I am open to people, you know, giving comments and saying why they don't think it is what I'm saying or other people are saying it is, because the opinions of all are welcome, all in one, because we've got to come at this from both sides of the fence. You know, a lot of the time I do sit on the fence, but you know, we do have to consider both sides, and we have to consider all the evidence that, and what I do is I try and show that. So I'll talk to you about Paul Freeman footage, and I'll talk to you about how he reportedly had sightings beforehand, how he's made a book out of it, talk about the evidence that kind of doesn't help his credibility, and then I'll also talk about the evidence that does add some weight to his credibility. But definitely think it's an interesting one. Again, thank you guys. Before I wrap up, let's just do a few questions. And they've hold on, there's one from Tavi there before. I believe there is a community of people in Eastern Europe that did have more full body hair, and they found out that us losing our hair was an effect of our hunting style, of needing to run pace game that we were capable of running down. Yeah, I think it was also to do with disease as well. I think there were certain diseases that we went through finding our immunity on the planet that made it. Peter Sellers was probably hairy, says Hart there. And last one from Katie Fitness: is there any explanation why they have so much hair and have found it in hot places? Is there any explanation why they have so much hair and are found in hot places? Well, actually, again, stay tuned and come back in about 5 or 6 live streams. I am going to be talking about this theory, and I don't mind talking about it now. It's called the theory of hairy people. And as I said, I've done a lot of taking my time to research medical science and sociological history and tribal histories and tribal mythology. As everybody knows, I'm a big, huge fan of Native American history anyway, so I was able to tap in onto some of my previous resources there. And the research for me has just continued to go on and on and on, that I was trying to put it into a shape that I knew that I could deliver it in a live podcast. And I thought, you know what, it's going to be so hard to sandwich this into a podcast. And then I started realizing, gosh, I might have enough here to write a book if I ever had the dedication and the commitment to do so. But that goes a lot of ways to add what you just said, Tavi, and a medical reason for hairy people. And we'll talk about that down the line. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. There is an outro to come, so don't just click off straight away. Check out my little outro as well. But thank you for joining this live stream. They are always going to be about an hour, less than an hour long. This one's overrun a little bit, but that's understandable with me being my first time and getting used to pushing all the buttons, etc. But thank you for everybody for coming along and watching, and thank you for all your comments. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. Relax, chill, and get ready for that week ahead of you. And have a great week, everyone. And I'll see you next week here live on the the vault on G Star Vault. Thanks for joining me, and check out this outro.